Thank you very much for, again, for the invitation and for the ability to speak. I think that it's a very good question. What we can do for making homeopathy known and accepted in the world? It's a question I'm struggling already for years because I feel responsible in our region for this task. And I have discussed many times with skeptics, with the various organizations. And what I came to is that we need to change the consciousness of humanity to be accepted. Because homeopathy is already in the paradigm which is now emerging. I think that the main problem we have is that it's not plausible. We cannot explain well the effect. We always finish discussions in questions that how it can work. And it's difficult for us to explain. And I think we will not be accepted until we will not pass, until we will shift to this new emerging paradigm, which will overpass the last 300 years of Cartesian, mechanistic, physicalist, materialistic paradigm. Therefore, I had this idea a year ago to start to facilitate, to create a new nucleus where we can help to change the consciousness of people. First, it was meant in general to show any special phenomena we cannot explain by the present paradigm. But later we decided, the core group of this quintessence movement, then we decided after many discussions to focus first on homeopaths. And we did already 2 symposiums. If you are interested, you can write me and I will send you the recordings. We would like to start with ourselves, as is, I think, the Gandhi told that we should become the change, that everybody should start from himself if wants to create the change in the world. So I think it's good to start with our group, our society, our community. And what we are doing, we are showing the phenomena we are meeting in our practice, like during the provings or during the therapy, phenomena, events which cannot be explained by the former old paradigm. And trying to dissolve in consciousness this old way of thinking, and the shift to the paradigm, the worldview, where everything is connected and influencing each other. So it's a horizontal model, not vertical and not separated anymore. I loved always the maps to know where I am since childhood. So I love the maps, the systems in homeopathy. And I like also very much the maps of consciousness, especially the spiral dynamics by Claire Graves, the psychologist, the American psychologist, and later his system, Levels of Consciousness, was developed by Don Beck, and it helps us understand what we are doing. So I believe quite firmly that we will be not accepted worldwide until the consciousness of people will not change. But we see this change happening already. Just we should facilitate, help to fasten it, to make it faster, because there is a high urgency, not only concerning homeopathy, but mostly geopolitically. We have a global warming and degradation of biotopes. The animals, plants are extinguished. So we have big problems. And I think that homeopathy can be a part of it and is at the same boat as all these big issues are. I don't know how many minutes I have still. It's 17:14. So I think it's basically what I wanted to tell, that I think it's a bigger perspective we are in. We cannot persuade people just showing them result. They are blind. Many times I met with the situation that I helped a patient, and then she came and told that I told 20, 30 my friends and relatives how excellent the result was, and nobody believed me. And why they didn't believe? Because it wasn't fitting the paradigm they are framing the world. So it's a bit difficult task, but I think we will not do it without this, without this shift. Okay, thank you. It's enough for me.
Okay, thank you. That is very important points mentioned. Need for a paradigm shift, level of consciousness, and from materialism to dynamism or holism or holistic perspective, and the spiral dynamics. In my another words, from linear science to non-linear science. It is a big necessity, and we are all thinking in the same direction. I'm happy to hear from you, Doctor, now. I'm having same opinions. I'm presenting a new idea called dynamic science that explains how the mind, vital force, and DNA are interconnected. That also explains how homeopathy works. We'll be coming forward with the much details later on. So now I invite the second panelist, Dr. Leena Bagadia. Dr. Leena Bagadia is a scholar of homeopathy psychiatry, consulting homeopath, who has also cleared the modern pharmacology course by MUHS, ranking first in the center and second in Maharashtra state. She has expertise in treating psychosomatic disease. She is a visiting professor in forensic medicine and toxicology at Srimad CMP Homeopathic Medical College, Mumbai, with a special degree in medical law and ethics from National Law School of India, University, Bangalore. Her PhD research topic is anger and essential hypertension their homeopathic management. She has presented nationally and internationally. She has won many accolades for this research. She is also the only homeopath who is the member of the prestigious International Society of Hypertension. Her research paper was shortlisted for New Investigator Award in the 21st Conference of International Society of Hypertension in Beijing in 2018. She has also authored a research paper on peer-reviewed journals. Currently, she is involved with the treatment of COVID patients. Dr. Leena Bagadia.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Hello, friends, and my fellow homeopaths and the lovers of homeopathy. This is a very important topic that I have been given to talk. And I would just start. I mean, you please mind my talk, because I will be talking a little bit of history, and then we will come back to the modern times, and then we will go into how we can uplift homeopathy at its best, where it deserves the right position. So, as you all know, homeopathy is one of the most commonly used forms of alternative medicine, and it has a large worldwide market. A 2019 WHO report found that 100 out of 133 member states surveyed in 2012 acknowledged that their population used homeopathy, with 22 saying the practice was regulated and 13 providing health insurance coverage. Here in India, first let me talk about India. The Indian government recognizes homeopathy as one of its national systems of medicine, and they are sold with medical claims. It has established the Department of Ayush, that is Ayurveda, Yoga and Naturopathy, Unani, Siddha and Homeopathy, under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The South Indian state of Kerala also has a cabinet level Ayush department. The Central Council of Homeopathy was established in 1973, which regulates our study and our students and homeopaths, and it monitors higher education in homeopathy, and the National Institute of Homeopathy in 1975. The principles and standards for homeopathic products are covered by the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of India. We have our own pharmacopoeia, and it is at par with all the international pharmacopoeias. A minimum of a recognized diploma in homeopathy and registration on a state register or the central register of homeopathy is required to practice homeopathy in India. My dear friends, just note this point, because this is a very important point where I'm going to come back. Homeopathy has its own views on illness and its own diagnostic and treatment principles, as well as products and practices. It treats patients with heavily diluted preparations of substances which, in their undiluted form, are thought to cause effects similar to the symptoms presented. Again, this point we are going to come back. Homeopathy achieved its greatest popularity. Now we are going little back in the history. Homeopathy achieved its greatest popularity in the 19th century. It was introduced to the United States. We'll just talk about USA because it is the leading countries as so far. United States in 1825. In India, it came in 1812, and Maharaja Ranjit Singh had started patronizing homeopathy when he got a very good result for his eye complaint from an English doctor who had come from England to India. So we'll first talk about this United States, that with its first homeopathic school opening in 1835. The first homeopathic school in United States that opened in 1835, and the American Institute of Homeopathy was established in 1844. Throughout the 19th century, dozens of homeopathic institutions appeared in Europe and the United States, and by 1900 there were 22 homeopathic colleges and 15,000 practitioners in United States. I must tell you that, friends, these are the regular medicine practitioners who joined this homeopathic college and started practicing. Our Dr. Kent, Dr. Dr. Boger, and there are so many. They were all primarily allopathics. So during this period, homeopathy was able to appear relatively successful, as other forms of treatment could be harmful and ineffective. You know the what treatments were going on at that time in late 19th century and early 20th century. So by the end of the century, the practice began to wane, with the last exclusively homeopathic medical school in the US closing in 1920. Now, my dear friends, if I tell you about the reason, you will be amazed. I don't know how many of you know about it, but around the same time when homeopathy started, say in early 1800s, so that time, if you know, the oil industry also came into practice. I mean, they discovered the uses of natural oil, so petrols and petroleum products. And if you know, the Rockefeller Foundation, or the Rockefeller was the first who patronized and who actually controlled most of the oil, getting oil and using oil and supplying oil to the world, the countries of the world. So here what happened was, this oil industry was the main culprit to kill the natural medicine. They mold and reshaped the American education system also followed, including a scheme to alter the teaching of American history to promote a view of collectivism, as well as a program culminating in the transformation of the practice of medicine. Naturopathic based herbal medicine was the norm, and Rockefeller set out to shift the medical industry toward using oil derived pharmaceuticals. To this end, the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research was established in 1901. Now you can correlate these two things. Headed up by Simon Flexner. His brother Abraham was an educator who was contracted by the Carnegie Foundation to write a report on the state of the American medical education system. His study, the Flexner Report, this was the death warrant. He studied the Flexner report along with the hundreds of millions of dollars that the Rockefeller and Carnegie foundations were to shower on medical research in the coming years, resulted in sweeping overall of the American medical system. Naturopathic and homeopathic medicine, medical care focused on unpatentable, uncontrollable natural remedies, and cure was now dismissed as quackery. Only drug based allopathic medicine requiring expensive medical procedures and lengthy hospital stays was to be taken seriously. I will talk about this in detail little ahead. The fortunes of Carnegie, Morgan, and Rockefeller financed surgery, radiation, and synthetic drugs. They were to become the economic foundation of the new medical economy. The oligarchy birthed entire medical industries from their own research centers and then sold their own products from their own petrochemical companies as the cure. Those who are ignorant of history are bound to repeat it. And if this story tells us anything, it is that unless we realize what has been done, we will be deceived again and again because the oil oligarchy's endgame is yet to be realized if we let them. As Corbett notes in closing, the takeover of education, of medicine, of the monetary system, of the food supply itself showed that the aim was much greater than a mere oil monopoly. It was the request to monopolize all aspects of life, to erect the perfect system of control over every aspect of society, every sector from which any threat of competition to their power could emerge. But the oligarchs are not done yet. During 19th century, this I'm coming back to the history where in the epidemics, such as cholera, the death rates in homeopathic hospitals were often lower than in conventional hospitals, where the treatments used at the time were often harmful and did little or nothing to combat the disease. You can check this. I have all the references. At the end, if you want, I will give you all the references. And as you all know, now if we come back here in modern times, you know that the allopathic drugs are manufactured by the pharma companies, and you know how pharma companies are playing role in washing off brainwashing people's mind, doctors mind, and how in the name of evidence based medicine they give such harmful chemicals to the children and to the elderly, to the pregnant women. If you, I hope you remember about the thalidomide case, the thalidomide babies. So the law of similars doctrine is called similia similibus currenter, or like cures like. That is the Hahnemann's law of similars, which is, they say that it is unproven and does not derive from scientific method. Again, I have the references of all this. I'm not talking baselessly. An account of the effects of eating cinchona bark noted by Oliver Wendell Holmes, published in 1861, failed to reproduce the symptoms Hahnemann reported. Subsequent these are all their attempts to show that homeopathy is futile. Subsequent scientific work showed that cinchona cures malaria because it contains quinine, which kills the Plasmodium falciparum parasite that causes the disease. The mechanism of action is unrelated to Hahnemann's ideas. So, my dear friends, this is the first thing that we must do to prove that this is not the case, but how our homeopathic medicines act. So, secondly, again, I'll go back in the history. As Hahnemann believed that large doses of drugs that caused similar symptoms would only aggravate illness, he advocated for extreme dilutions. A technique was devised for making dilutions that Hahnemann claimed would preserve the substance therapeutic properties while removing its harmful effects. Fair enough, we all know it, we all homeopaths agree. So Hahnemann believed that this process enhanced the spirit-like medicinal powers of the crude substances. Here, no other system of medicine believe in vital force. Some Ayurveda and Unani and other may be calling them something Jivatma or Atma or something other. But allopaths, they don't believe in anything that is spirit-like. They believe that they believe in only material causes like bacteria, viruses, fungus, etc. But They don't believe that the human spirit is, or the spirit is at fault and the spirit is deranged. So we have to take care of that first, then automatically the body has the power to clear off every fungi or every bacteria or viruses. So the lengthy records of self-experimentation by homeopaths. See, again, I mean, this is a funny thing that these allopathics have taken one lesson from us, from this the drug proving thing, that they found it, this nitroglycerin which is used for angina was discovered by looking through homeopathic provings, though homeopaths themselves never used it for that purpose at that time. Again, there is a reference for this, so I am talking it with a reference. So now we come back to our time. What is the position of homeopathy right now? So in 2021, so the latest, the French healthcare minister phased out social security reimbursement for homeopathic drugs. France has long had a stronger belief in virtues of homeopathic drugs than many other countries, and the world's biggest manufacturer of alternative medicine drugs, Boiron, is located in that country. Spain has also announced moves to ban homeopathy and other therapies. So in 2016, the University of Barcelona cancelled its master's degree in homeopathy, citing lack of scientific basis after advice from the Spanish Ministry of Health. Shortly afterwards, the University of Valencia announced the elimination of masters in homeopathy. Again, the lack of convincing scientific evidence supporting its efficacy and its use of preparation without active ingredients have led to characterization of homeopathy as pseudoscience and quackery. Now here we, my dear friends, can we, because with the nanotechnology invention and other finer much better electron microscopes and other things, can we not do something about this, that we cannot, I mean, how do we prove that there is some active ingredient in, and there is a dynamic force that our medicines carry and they cure the disease? So this is one thing that we can do, again, for homeopathy, if we can prove this. And here in India, there is a IIT Bombay professor, I'm forgetting his name, but he has proved that there is a nanoparticle of that the original drug substance in the homeopathic medicine. So if we can do further trials and prove this, so this also can show that yes, homeopathy is not a pseudoscience and it's not a placebo therapy and quackery. Again, now they have the Lancet and all the reputed journals and other scientists. If you have heard of the Dr. Randy, he had given, he was, when he had thrown a challenge that I will give 1 million rupees if you can prove that homeopathy works. So this is in late 20th century. So even they, this Lancet and other scientists, they did the meta-analysis of homeopathic trials. So this is meta-analysis is an essential tool from which the allopathic drugs are proved and the efficacy of allopathic drugs are proved, their safety is proved. But homeopathy adheres to different customs and different principles. So if we are going to measure our homeopathy with their rods, their rulers, then it will not be, I mean, we will not be able to show the efficacy. It is like telling the elephant to have a high jump, or telling the cheetah to carry 1 ton of load. So you are totally not doing justice to the our system. So that is what we have to make allopaths or the other scientists understand. So their technique of meta-analysis and systemic reviews, they found that the methodological quality in the majority of randomized trials in homeopathy have shortcomings, and that such trials were generally of lower quality than trials of conventional medicine. A major issue has been publication bias, where positive results are more likely to be published in journals. This has been particularly marked in alternative medicine journals, where few of the published articles, just 5% during the year 2000, tend to report null results. A systematic review of the available systematic reviews confirmed in 2002 that higher quality trials tended to have less positive results and found no convincing evidence that any homeopathic preparation exerts clinical effects different from placebo. The same conclusion was also reached in 2005 in meta-analysis published in Lancet. A 2017 systemic review and meta-analysis found that the most reliable evidence did not support the effectiveness of non-individualized homeopathy. Here, my dear friend, homeopathy mainly has the forte that it has an individualized medicine. So if one case we have given to five different homeopaths, there may be five different remedies, and still the patient may become all right from the four of them. We don't know. So that is what here that this allopathic medicines, they have randomized control trial, they have double blind, they have triple blind randomized control trials, where they give placebo to one group and the other group will be given the drug substance, and they will not know. The double blinding means the examiner as well as the investigator and the group, the patients, they don't know which medicine or what substance has been given to them. That is double blind. Triple blind, where the analyst also doesn't know, and finally it is done. The analysis is done, and then the results are disclosed, and the members are disclosed whether they have given the drug substance or they were given the placebo. So this kind of randomized control trials were not possible, or were not done in past. Nowadays they are doing it, and the double blind, Dr. Methi has done a very nice systematic analysis and review about this kind of trials, and he found that definitely there were some of them were really high quality trials. Basically the problem here is that in homeopathy, I please forgive me for my saying this, but they don't have a specific requirement for anybody to become a homeopath. In our India, we have colleges designated only to homeopathy, and after 12th standard, that is after senior year in college, we can join that. And we are taught anatomy, physiology, and all other allopathic so-called allopathic pathology, and all this gynecology, these subjects, along with homeopathic therapeutics and homeopathic organon repertory and materia medica. But I see that in other countries, especially in Europe and many other countries, I mean most of the other countries for that matter, there is no specific education about the anatomy, physiology, pathology, etc. And they come from any stream of study, and maybe commerce or science or whatever, and there is no background, medical background. So the homeopathy as a medicine subject is not taught properly. Only materia medica, organon repertory are taught. So there I think we lack. So I would suggest, and in India, sorry, they are by 2025, our government has passed a law that they are going to give all the students of medicine, Ayurveda, homeopathy, allopathy, Unani, whatever, first baseline 5 years of proper medical education, and then after that, post graduation, one can take homeopathy, one can take Ayurveda, one can go in cardiology, whatever. So it will be. Yes, sir.
Dr. Priya, please wind up within 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, 1 minute, sir. I will just. So this is what I want. That if that kind of thing has happened, then we will have the best doctors available. And thirdly, I would just like to say that we should also have proper veterinary and plant experiments of homeopathic drugs. So there, if we can prove our effectiveness, that will be the best part. And last but not the least, research. Research, research, and research. This is the only most important part which is going to give credibility to homeopathy. Research in every part, every subject of homeopathy will definitely uplift our system, because and it will give the space that it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Leena. That was a very nice, elaborated historical presentation. Thank you for that. It is very enlightening. Now I go to the last panelist, Dr. Akshay Bangar from Canada, but of Indian origin also. Dr. Akshay Bangar, MD Homeopathy from Canada, who is a registered homeopath with the College of Homeopaths of Ontario, Toronto, Canada. And also, just a minute, and also with the Faculty of Ontario College of Homeopathy. Somebody is opened two systems in the same room. Can you close those who are opening? Yeah, Dr. Akshay Bangar, you are opening two systems in the room. Please close one of it. Yeah, please. So I will introduce you, please. So Dr. Akshay Bangar is also belong to the Faculty of Ontario College of Homeopathic Medicine, Toronto, Canada. Ex-principal and professor in CDP Homeopathic Medical College, Surat, Gujarat State, India. Also member of the editorial board, National Journal of Homeopathy, Mumbai, India. Immigrated to Toronto, Canada, and practicing homeopathy in Canada since 11 years. Teaching clinical and administrative clinical and administrative experience in homeopathy for about 33 years. So I invite Dr. Akshay Bangar to put his light on what needs to be done to put homeopathy to the #1 position in the world. Please unmute yourself, doctor. Please. I think there is an echo coming from your side.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, doctor. Yes.
Hello. Okay. So, greeting from everybody. I'm thankful to Dr. Ayudia, President of International Forum of Homeopathy, for inviting me to present. I'm sorry.
Excuse me, there is an echo from your side. I think there are two systems
There's an
operating.
echo. Okay.
There is a resonance happening. Your mobile and computer both are open.
Okay. Is it?
There are two.
I think, let me see. Reduce my volume. Is it better now?
Is your mobile open?
Is it better?
Sir, have you joined from two devices? Have you joined?
The remote system inside.
Have you joined from two devices? Have you joined?
Yes. So, right now?
Yes, doctor.
No. No, sir. Actually, you are having network issue. So
I'm a little slow.
we are in double voice.
In between. Okay. Yeah, sorry for that. Something are not in our control. So thank you for inviting me to present my thoughts on topic of the day.
Network problem.
You are not audible, doctor. You are not audible. Not audible. You are not audible, doctor. There is a network problem.
Yes. What needs to be done to make homeopathy? Okay, no voice coming from my side.
Yes. But there is a network problem, I think. It's not very clear.
Okay. Let me see if I can use it. And because I think everybody over here in this group, everyone in the world wants homeopathy to be the #1 treatment method. And we all try to do that on individual levels. But on this platform, when we have an integration of all different associations of the world, we can do it in another way. I feel it is possible to address this comprehensively from different areas or different fronts simultaneously, means all together. These different areas are political, clinical, research, educational, social and cultural, media, and homeopathic integrity. So I will try to explain these from the growth of homeopathy in India. Since I belong from India and we heard Dr. Lee talk about the development of homeopathy in India. So I will only give you a brief touch over there. I will not go into more details about it. India is the biggest hub, we all know, of homeopathy in the world. It has maximum number of homeopaths, maximum number of homeopathic colleges, homeopathic hospitals, homeopathic clinics, homeopathic research work, etc. It was possible to achieve this when homeopathy was integrated with political involvement. And with the help of political involvement, a Central Council of Research in Homeopathy or a Central Council of Homeopathy were formed. And this gave standardized education methods, like Dr. Lina spoke, that in the other parts of the world where homeopathy is not a second best of medicine, there the teaching is not standardized. One college is teaching something and the other college teaches something else. Though materia medica, organon, repertory, and all those subjects remain the same, but other medical subjects are not equally taught. This is seen in India because of the Central of Homeopathy. And I believe we as homeopaths need to influence the policy makers. Political aspect. Politics, whenever we speak about politics, what comes to our mind is all wrong things about politics. That politics is bad and all that. But politics is actually, it is a good thing if it is understood and practiced in the right way. And we have to influence this particular area. Right from Hahnemann's time, we have seen that Hahnemann could practice homeopathy when the king in that particular region allowed him to do so. And in India, it is the biggest example. Homeopathy proliferated all over India because it was accepted by the political system. The other area is clinical. It is very important for all of us as homeopaths to practice evidence-based homeopathy. And we need to have clinical proof of the effect of homeopathic medicine on the patient when it has cured. So this is very important because we are not speaking within our homeopathic circle. We are speaking or we are announcing to the medical fraternity at large, and also we are announcing to the social society at large that homeopathy is useful in these diseases.
Yes, doctor, please.
And when we talk about this, we are asked questions.
Doctor, we need to wind up within 1 minute because we exactly at within 9 minutes we need to close this session. We have another session waiting at 9:30 Indian time with an important member of parliament beginning another session.
Okay.
With this forum. So we wish to have a small interactive session also for the audience to take.
Okay.
So we have only 8 minutes remaining. Please wind up within a minute.
Within a minute, right? So I have 1 minute.
Yes.
Okay, great. No problem. So research, education, social and culture is very important, but media plays a very important role at this junction. If we are able to produce these research results, if we are able to produce these clinical results on the media, on Facebook, on internet, we should have a website or series of websites, because people who want to take treatment, they must go to the Google and they search whether anything is there possible, anything natural is possible. If we can do it in media, it is one of the most important things in the present era. And homeopathic integrity, I'll talk about this later, but thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Dr. Shaji, for inviting me, and wish you all the best.